Coast Bias. The boys back by popular demand, of course, for your friends on FanDuel TV, courtesy of the Ringer Gambling Show. It's Raheem the Dream Palmer in Sin City, Las Vegas. It's Joe House from D.C. John Jastrzemski, courtesy of New York, rocking and rolling. Boys, the Oklahoma City Thunder are one win away from the NBA Finals, and my condolences if you laid 3 or 3.5 with the Thunder because you were on the right side of this game for the most part. It really felt like despite the comeback made by the Minnesota Timberwolves in the fourth quarter, there was just too many issues as far as turning the basketball over early. They got killed on the offensive glass early, and when this game got tight, it felt like any time OKC needed a bucket, it was SGA in the mid-range, it was Jalen Williams, it was Chet Holmgren, and Oklahoma City squeaks it out, and they are now up 3-1 in this series. Joe House, this was the most entertaining game, hands down, of the 4 we have watched. Minnesota got the sort of contributions they needed from their role guys, but I think it's pretty simple. You look at why the Minnesota Timberwolves didn't win this game, I could look at 2 specific reasons. One, can't turn the ball over as many times as they did and think you're going to get away with it. Number 2, their best players were not at their very best.
Yeah, JJ, it is very simple. In a 2-point game, when Julius Randle and Anthony Edwards combine for 21 points, 9 assists, and 11 rebounds, combine, that ain't going to get the job done. Now, kudos to the Minnesota Timberwolves role players. Jaden McDaniels showed up and had a very good game. Rudy Gobert was a forceful presence. They worked him in. DiVincenzo's best game of the entire series. Nickeil Alexander-Walker with 23 points, 5 of 8 from 3. But you need Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle in a 2-point game. And this is the thing with this Oklahoma City Thunder, the resilience all season long. And any time they have, over the course of these playoffs, encountered adversity, they come back, they handle their business. They're just somewhat inevitable, Dream. I think that's where it comes down to. I was excited by the level of play with the Timberwolves, but the turnovers led to Oklahoma City getting 11 more shot attempts, and ultimately that was the difference. The T-Wolves just could not get that shot to get themselves over the hump, and so here we are with Oklahoma City on the brink of an NBA Finals, my friend.
I got to go a different direction because, you look at Julius Randle and you look at Anthony Edwards, and I know they didn't score a lot of points, but ultimately they shot the Wolves shot 51% from the field, 43% from 3. They shot the same percentages as the Oklahoma City Thunder tonight, but ultimately they had 23 turnovers and conceded 25 points off of turnovers, and they got rebounded early. So you're looking at a team that basically lost this game because they lost the possession battle. And I think, people are going to look at this game and say Anthony Edwards was passive, but I think they were selling out and, forcing other guys to beat them. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I think the Wolves truly beat themselves in this game. You can't turn the ball over that much and expect to win a game. And the fact is, they were right there. They lost this game by 2 points. Oklahoma City has still yet to cover a road game in the postseason. But I got to give it up for the Oklahoma City Big Three because SGA, out there with 40 points, he showed why he's the MVP. But then you had the other guys step up. Jalen Williams, 34 points. Chet Holmgren. He was a monster on the boards. He scored 21 points. He hit those threes, 2 for 4 from 3. I think the Big Three for OKC, they truly stepped up. And if you're looking at the course of the postseason, this was their second best offensive rating for the entire postseason. So, we've spoken at length about Oklahoma City, their role players struggling to hit shots. Well, tonight they hit every big shot in every big moment.
Not wrong about that, Raheem. Monstrous game out of the Big Three, and you knew you were going to get a bounce-back game from SGA. That's exactly what you got. He went for 40, but you don't win this game on the road without Jalen Williams giving you 30. How many big threes did he hit? Chet Holmgren, to your point, was all over the place. Minnesota native, knows a thing or two about playing in that building as a high school athlete, and he's getting offensive rebounds. He's blocking shots. He's slamming things home. He was super assertive, super aggressive. So you're right. All 3 of those guys play great. And House, turnovers. In the first half of this game, Minnesota is shooting do you know what out of the ball. I mean, every guy with the exception of Edwards was hitting shot after shot after shot. And as someone that had Minnesota plus 3.5 in this game, I'm watching the game saying, how in the world did they down 8? How are they down 9 with the way they're shooting it? They couldn't grab rebounds early and the turnovers. You turn it over 20-plus times, you're not winning a playoff game. Sorry, not going to happen.
Yeah, the turnover differential didn't turn out to be as glaring as in the first couple of games. But the problem is the margin for error is so thin against this Oklahoma City team because they just don't beat themselves. I just want to do a quick tip of the cap to Jalen Williams because this is now 4 out of 5 games where, we've been asking, will that second guy show up for Oklahoma City? Well, he has put himself squarely in the center, put the spotlight on himself and said he is that second guy. And he has, an ease to his game, the comfort of his 34 points tonight, 6 for 9 from 3. But the thing that was so impressive, it was all in rhythm. He wasn't forcing a damn thing. 13 for 24 from the field compared to SGA 13 for 30. I mean, a very efficient 34 for Jalen Williams. And the scary thing for the rest of the league is that both Lou Dort and Isaiah Hartenstein were not that impactful because they didn't need to be. I mean, Hartenstein played 16 minutes. They just don't really need him against this Minnesota team because Caruso's got those minutes and Caruso's been so effective and Dort can just be a defensive specialist. That's a scary, scary thing for the rest of the league, Dream.
Yeah, I mean, it's extremely scary. I mean, and then you look at guys like Case and Wiles. They got him. I mean, he's basically the Dort replacement. So it's like, I mean, you're looking at a league with the second apron, which is basically a hard cap. And, you could pay SGA, Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, and they have enough young guys around them to where it's like you can afford to lose Dort. So it's definitely scary for the league coming up. And, whoever, comes through. I mean, I know the series isn't over, but up 3-1, it's going to be very difficult for Minnesota to come back and win this series. And if the Thunder make the finals, you're looking at minus 400, minus 500 favorite over whoever wins the Eastern Conference Finals, Knicks or Pacers.
We'll have time to probably break down Oklahoma City in the NBA Finals coming up next week. I do want to hit on Game 5. It is the way too early look for us at a Game 5 line because Game 4 just wrapped up. We're sitting here talking about it as we speak. The line, Raheem, Oklahoma City is at 8.5. The total is at 220. I think the prevailing thought is going to be Oklahoma City back at home. They're going to get more of a well-rounded, diverse type of, balance to their scoring. It's hard to make the case for the Timberwolves. They've played better in the last 2 games, but OKC has looked like a completely different team at home. We've seen that this entire postseason, and when they get it going and they put it on you, and they love to win by double digits. What's your initial read seeing that 8.5 line as we sit here today?
Yeah, I don't necessarily, want to play a side in this game because we all know the closeout game is, typically the hardest game of any series, especially with a team as good as Minnesota. I'm looking at the total. I think we've had 3 straight overs in this series, and it doesn't seem like it's slowing down at any point in time. So I think you got to go over. 220 just seems a little bit short. I think you got to grab that. Just go back to the well again, and obviously, the Wolves are going to be balls to the wall at this point in time, and I expect a better game from Anthony Edwards. I expect a better game from Julius Randle. So I want to go over the total. I'm not touching the side at all.
So interesting, Raheem. House, I'm curious to get your thoughts on this, but Raheem, the Minnesota role players have been lights out in these home games. They weren't lights out in the first 2 games in OKC. Does that scare you at all?
It doesn't scare me at all because, even in, game 2, you had a total score of 118-103. And, you went over the total of 218. So, I mean, even if, Minnesota's role players don't play as well, I think you'll get a better game from Oklahoma City's role players. And then I also think, you'll probably have some fouls at the end, or, if it's a blowout, you'll have some garbage time. So I just think this total is too short. And I think the faucet has been cut on for both teams offensively. I think, both teams offensively have really gotten it going the last couple games. I mean, outside of, game 3 where Oklahoma City had 1-on-1. But I think this total's too short, so I'm going over.
House, what are we thinking?
I love the way that Dream is laying this out. I'm going to get even a little bit freakier. I'm going to play the Minnesota team total over, and I'm going to really plow into it. I'm going to go heavy because I think that it sets up for a lot of different ways to get an out with that. Can you hear
the
that?
The dogs like it too, House. They're a fan of that team total. Don't forget about that.
The dogs support it, yes. So I like that Minnesota team total. I'll play a little bit on the over, and I'm just going to go ahead and play OKC on the money line. I think they are going to close it out. I think this is the end of the road for Minnesota, and I'll figure out something nice to parlay it with. It could be the team total.
So I don't like Minnesota at all in this spot, guys. I know they competed their tails off in these last 2 games at home. They look so overwhelmed playing those games in Oklahoma City. I get the closeout factor, Raheem. I just think it's kind of a coronation type of spot for the Thunder. I think they're going to come out guns a-blazing. I think they're going to have everybody contributing left and right. And as we sit here today, I don't have to make a pick on it immediately. Actually, yes, I do. I'm going to take Oklahoma City laying 8.5 because I don't think they're losing a game. And I think it could unravel for Minnesota. I've seen it in game 1. I saw it in game 2. Don't be surprised if you see it in game number 5. Now, gentlemen, when we come back, we turn our attention to the Eastern Conference Finals where my New York Knickerbockers are alive and well after the 20-point game 3 comeback, the Landry, Shamet, DeLon Wright. No. The Karl Anthony Towns game is the way we're looking at this one. We'll dive into how exactly it happened for the Knicks. Is it sustainable with extra guys maybe helping out in a potential game 4? We'll dive into that. We'll get the boys' best bets on Knicks, Pacers game 4, T-Wolves, OKC game 5. It's all coming your way. We get it rolling on FanDuel TV right after this. Boys, let's dive into that game. Knicks with dead to rights. The obituary was being written. It was being written by Charles Barkley. It was being written on social media. By the way, Raheem, this is less than 10,000 on why you don't live tweet and bury a team midway through a game. You didn't do it last night, but a whole lot of people learned their lesson, hopefully, after the Knicks came back against the Indiana Pacers. But, Joe House, I'm watching this game, and I know full well the Knicks 20-point comeback against the Celtics in game 1. 20-point comeback against the Celtics in game 2. Yes, I was relieved in a way. It was only a 13-point game at halftime, but I wasn't necessarily feeling comeback. Joe House, how in the world did the New York Knicks do that?
It's literally the question, and we have to try and come up with an answer. With 2 minutes and 13 seconds left in the third quarter, the Indiana Pacers had a 15-point lead. Now, to the credit of the New York Knicks, it was only 10 points going into the fourth. But if you, in between the third quarter and the start of the fourth quarter, did not hustle and get your butt back on the couch in front of the television on that Sunday night, you missed the entirety of the New York Knicks comeback. And it was in the form of that Karl Anthony Towns man who announced, yes, America, the world, the greater citizens of New York City, I am a New York Knick. He made that announcement. It was dominant play by him. But what about this Tibbs guy? Who are these guys getting minutes, double-digit minutes on a Tibbs team? Landry Shamet? I didn't even know he was on the Knicks. That's a joke. DeLon Wright? Now, I have an appreciation for DeLon Wright. Very good defender. Spent a minute here in Washington. They tried to get him going. 13 minutes for him. And, of course, Deuce has been getting minutes. But those guys combined for 7 assists, 3 steals. And it was that effort by DeLon Wright and Deuce really that produced the defensive effort that was necessary to let Cat go get his dream.
Yeah, it was absolutely stunning because while I didn't tweet that the Knicks were dead and buried, I did tweet that Karl Anthony Towns was playing terrible. And then instantly, he has 4 points at the end of the third quarter. And then he drops 20 points in the fourth quarter to absolutely take over that game. And this is probably the best playoff game of Cat's career. I mean, I was absolutely stunned. And as somebody who was on the Knicks, I absolutely love to see it. But more importantly, the Knicks defense was unbelievable. They held Indiana to 42 points in the second half, and Thibs finally started playing his bench. I mean, like you said, he brought in DeLon Wright. They brought in Landry Shamet. And for whatever reason, that defense was there. And then they even held out Brunson. I mean, Brunson had 5 fouls, but he extended some of those minutes for that bench because the defense was playing so well. So kudos to Thibs for just having the balls to play those guys. And it reeked of desperation, but it worked.
Raheem, excellent point. We know Tom Thibodeau has not given DeLon Wright or Landry Shamet any sort of run, any sort of burn in this postseason. The Knicks get into foul trouble. Karl-Anthony Towns, we'll get to him, and you guys did brilliantly. He was off his mark for the first 3 quarters of this game. Jalen Brunson was off his mark the entirety of this game. I know he hit a big shot late, but he was 6 to 18 from the field. He was inefficient. He was just all out of sorts. The Knicks won this game because Shamet and DeLon Wright came in and defended like crazy, gave the Knicks a spark. Then Deuce McBride gave the Knicks unbelievable minutes in the third quarter to the point where, hey, it kept them in the game. You felt like this game was never going to be there for the Knicks. 13 at the end of the half, striking distance. 10 points going into the fourth quarter, striking distance. And I think that's got to be a lesson Tom Thibodeau needs to now learn moving forward. Hey, this Indiana series specifically, the pace, the up and down nature of the series, the way they're playing a boatload of guys. Raheem, I want to see these bench guys playing more now moving forward because it worked for the Knicks. You see if it works in game 4. If it doesn't, hey, you go with the guys who brought you there. But I think that's got to be a major learning point now for the Knicks. A lot was made of the starting lineup change, going from Mitchell Robinson to Josh Hart. I don't think that's the talking point in Knickland. I think the talking point is playing a couple more guys.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely have to play a couple of more guys. At the end of the day, like, we know that it can't just be Brunson and everybody else. You really have to lean on. And you look at the Indiana Pacers, they're playing 10 guys. If they're playing 10 guys every night, they're fresher. So ultimately, you're going to have to lean on that bench. But, I mean, incredible comeback from the New York Knicks. And, somebody had this stat. The record when teams are down 20 plus in a row playoff game. All other teams are 12 and 609. In the 2025 playoffs alone, the Knicks are 3-1. They have a 751 percentage when down 20 in a row playoff game. So I just think we kind of have to look at the NBA a little different. 20 points is only 7 possessions.
Raheem, you sound like Tom Thibodeau. That's what he was saying after the game. He goes, you guys roll your eyes at me saying that no lead is safe. And the 3-point shot, the pace, and just the nature of the game now in 2025, Raheem, 20-point comeback in 2025 is not the same it was in 2005. It's just totally different.
Yeah, I mean, completely different. It's still stunning to me. I haven't quite gotten used to it, but I'm just at the point now where I think you recognize that you can generate some value live betting some of these runs because it feels like every Indiana Pacers game, every Knicks run and game, there's going to be a 10 to 15-point run. And I think you can get an edge inside of the in-game markets.
That's got to be the way, JJ. That's such a good point from Dream. I mean, at the end of the day, you look at the box score, the Knicks made 6 more threes. That was the difference of the game, right? They outscored the Pacers 36-20 in the fourth quarter, all generated by Karl-Anthony Towns. That level of aggression that was so necessary for the Knicks. He picked up where Brunson was unable to. It was, I think it's fair to say, definitely Brunson's worst playoff game in these playoffs and possibly one of his worst playoff games of his entire career. And that's fine. That's going to happen sometimes. But for Cat to step up and be there for him, man, that trade by the Knicks, you got to give it up to Leon Rose, to Worldwide West. They made it happen, and that's why the Knicks are still showing some life. But the modern NBA, those threes are the difference. I'll give a tip of the cap, and I'll stop in a second. 2 of those 3-point plays in the fourth quarter by Karl-Anthony were especially impressive. That man attacking the basket is a different element. You also have to give a little bit of credit to OG and Mikal Bridges, both of whom didn't shoot great. I think they both shot, like 33% from the field. But
OG shot it okay. Bridges was an abomination. I think he was 33. I think him and Brunson were 33.
Oh,
OG
Brunson,
was actually all right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's right.
The Villanova boys couldn't hit a shot yesterday.
OG was 6 for 9, 4 for 6 from 3. You're absolutely right. But the observation I wanted to make, they put the clamps on Siakam. They said we're not going to let him. And Siakam had a good game. He shot 50%, but he just didn't get the attempts. Only 14 field goal attempts for 17 points. That's not like super efficient. Only got to the free throw line for 5 free throw attempts. So that's the Knicks looking at the film saying we're not going to let this man beat us. It was impressive. There's a blueprint here, JJ, for the Knicks to make this thing competitive, and wait till we get our first like real breakout Brunson game.
No doubt about it, and we will get to those Game 4 thoughts momentarily. But House, you mentioned the stage. You're down 0-2 in the series. You're down big. You're down 10 points going into the fourth quarter. Karl-Anthony Towns has dealt with a lot of detractors in his NBA career. He's dealt with detractors now in this postseason run amongst Knicks fans in my life, because I think they're finally, the Knicks fan, getting the full taste and the full arsenal of the Karl-Anthony Towns experience, where in the regular season it was pretty happy-go-lucky. And then you have these games where he picks up these stupid fouls, where he's not aggressive enough. And it's incredibly frustrating, and it's incredibly maddening. However, House, he might be the girl with the curl, but when he's on, hey, your season was on the line. Your best player was awful. And he basically was like, fellas, get on my back. I got you. They can't guard me. Like, doesn't that sum up the Karl-Anthony Towns, like, fan experience in a nutshell? The 4 quarters of basketball we watched against the Indiana Pacers, you truly had it all.
Well, and to his credit, we've been saying this about Julius Randle. Like, we've seen a version of Julius Randle that we haven't seen in his entire career. I think you could kind of say the same about Cat. Like, he's had some good runs in some playoff experiences, but this is an entirely different stage for him. He was missing in action in the Western Conference Finals last year against Dallas. He was one of the biggest reasons that Minnesota got pushed out by Dallas, and he got in consistent foul trouble. If he can keep his hands to himself and not go out there, with the dumb touch fouls, the force that he's able to exert. Now, one thing is for sure the truth: that man is comfortable against this Pacers defense. He has no concerns whatsoever about Miles Turner getting in his way, and he gets to the spots that he wants to get to, and he just needs to knock down 1-3. It seems, Dream, to be comfortable and ready to rock and roll. But I have some future plays here that we will get to in the fullness of time. I think the Knicks are super crazy live now.
I'm not sure how I feel about this. It's still strange to me, because right now the Knicks are 6-1 straight up on the road in the postseason. The only loss coming in Game 5 against the Celtics in Eastern Conference Finals. But they're just 3-5 at home. So it does feel like you're probably going to see money on the Knicks in Game 4. But, I mean, going forward, do we think that much has changed? I'm not sure. So I definitely want to hear what you have to say as far as your future plays on the series.
Well, I like that, Raheem, because when we come back, the Knicks are alive and well, at least going into Game 4. You are going to see a similar spread for Game 4 than what you saw in Game number 3. Now, series prices moved a little bit. It was at +4 and change after the Knicks lost Game 1 and Game 2 at Madison Square Garden. And to your point, Raheem, they have been the road warriors throughout this postseason. 3 against Detroit, 2 against Boston, now 1 against Indiana. When we come back, we will dive into Game 4. Are the Knicks going to even this series? And is the momentum now swinging a much different tune? Sooner or later, got to win a game at home, though. We'll get to that. We'll come right back. All right, boys, let's dive into this game number 4. Line is basically the same as what you had for Game 3. Not quite, Raheem. You and I were on the Knicks +2, closed at 1.5. Now we're looking at the Indiana Pacers favored by 2.5. The total in this game is at 221.5. You know, Raheem, a lot of my instincts are going to have my heart talking. And I know how good the Knicks have been to me on the road, betting them in these playoff games. However, I think it's important to understand something. Indiana lost Game 3 in the Cleveland series. At home, different kind of game. Cleveland smoked them in game 3. This was a collapse in the third and in the fourth quarter. Game was tight over the final 2 minutes, and the Knicks pulled it out in the closing minutes. But then Indiana responded in that game 4, laid a smackdown on Cleveland, and it was an absolute avalanche. That's giving me a little pause in saying Knicks got this on lock and they're going to go and even this series up. What's your initial read on seeing 2.5 and the total being what it is?
So my initial read is that this number is short. And look, if I look at my model, I actually have the Pacers as higher favorites in this. If I'm using full season numbers, yes, the Pacers should be -2. But if I'm using post All-Star break numbers, the Pacers should be -6. And if I'm using playoff numbers, it should be way higher than that. I think the Pacers aren't the team from the full season. So I think 2 is short. And I think based on what we saw from game 3, it was pretty clear that the line should have been higher. But I think when you're looking at game 3, I think there was some desperation. You're down 0-2. You're going to get a better effort from the team down 0-2. And we've seen that all throughout this postseason. So I think this line should be higher. I think this line is really, really short. I can't suggest backing the New York Knicks here. If anything, it's Pacers or pass, but I don't have anything on this yet.
House?
So I don't have any argument whatsoever with the math. And the version of the Pacers that we've seen in these playoffs has been so impressive. They've shown tremendous resilience in situations where, zigzag should apply. They don't care. They go in and grab wins where they can. But I think the Knicks, here's the difference in this series. It was a swing game with a result that was so extraordinary, so unprecedented. You in the history of playoff basketball, it was a 1-of-1, which was the outcome in game 1. This series should be 2-1, the New York Knicks, and home court restored. So I like the Knicks. I'm playing the Knicks on the money line. I'm just going to play them straight up on the money line. It's +120, I think, on the FanDuel Sportsbook right now. And I still think the Knicks have the 5 best players. The fact that Tibbs put 9 guys on the floor and gave them double-digit minutes, that was significant to me. And I think it was a wrinkle that the Pacers are going to have to factor in. But look, I think the Knicks are due for a good whistle. And I think the Knicks, they didn't shoot the lights out from 3. They shot 34% from 3. That's about, they're like a season average kind of number. If they can continue to hold the Pacers to that, Pacers only shot 20% from 3. If they're able to take those guys, we went through the names, those heroes of game 3 for the Knicks. If you're putting Shamet and Wright and Deuce McBride out on the perimeter and keeping the Pacers from knocking down, they only took 23s, 5 of 20 from 3. That to me is the difference. And I think the Knicks may have stumbled into a little bit of something here. I like the Knicks on the money line.
I'm right there with you, House. And I think there's a big factor with Indiana we have not mentioned yet. And I know he came back and played in the game. Nesmith did not look right.
Great
coming
point.
back with that ankle.
Point.
And he is so important for what they want to do defensively. He allows them to stretch the floor that much more. And it's a quick turnaround now. We're talking about a 48-hour turnaround from an ankle injury in game 3, now coming up in game 4. And Raheem, I just think with these Knicks Pacers series, outside of 2013, that was pretty blasé. Historically, you get a lot of these emotional swings in a series. What do I mean by that? That means expect the unexpected. That means the Knicks go and win 2 games on the road and then go watch Indiana win a 5th game back at Madison Square Garden, where I feel like both teams are clearly comfortable playing on one another's floor. Both teams have a sense of identity about both of their teams where, hey, if they're facing adversity, if they're facing hardship, they're going to be okay. Saw game 1 with the Pacers, clearly saw game 3 with the Knicks. And House, I think you're onto something here as far as the money line is concerned for the Knicks. Indiana wins the game, they win going away. I don't think you're getting much value with 2.5 points. I know people are going to say, hey, the first 3 games of this series have been close. That's true. I just think if Indiana is going to go and win this game, Raheem, it will be one of those margin, hey, they stretch it out. They are playing Indiana Pacer basketball. I think if the game's tight, Knicks are going to find a way. And one thing we got to mention, guys, that's scary. House, Knicks have played at times in this series better with Jalen Brunson on the bench. You can't ignore that. And nobody loves Jalen Brunson more than me. I understand he's got to be out there, but let's think about this for a minute. Game 1, when they went on their crazy run, fourth quarter, he was in foul trouble. Game 3, fourth quarter, foul trouble. Wasn't necessarily efficient. Is that something or nothing, House?
It's definitely something. Of course it's something. Remember, one of the storylines coming into these playoffs was how his absence in the over the course of the month leading up to the playoffs, where Brunson missed several games, really led to unlocking Mikal Bridges. Welcome to the New York Knicks, Mikal Bridges. We finally saw some games out of him, and it's clear that chemistry that developed with Brunson not being out on the floor for them in that last month run up to the playoffs, there's some stickiness to it. So for sure, they're comfortable. There's no issue in terms of ball handling or any particular aspect of how they get into the offense that is compromised when Brunson isn't out there. Brunson needs to be a factor in terms of the guy who gets the ball to score when there's 5 minutes left in the ball game, 4 minutes left in the ball game, those crunch time possessions. But for sure, the sharing of the ball, like if you look across the shot attempts in game 3, was very equitable. I mean, my man, Deuce McBride got 9 points in his 15 minutes. Like, he got some shot attempts. All those guys got shot attempts. That's important for this Knicks team, and it's important for the go-forward proposition of this series.
Guys, from a prop standpoint, this one I've been on the last 2 games. I'm playing it again in game 4, Raheem. The Knicks have had absolutely no answer for TJ McConnell. He absolutely kills the Knicks. He had 10 points and I think 6 assists in game 2. He had 12 points in game 3 and played brilliantly in the second quarter. They keep throwing out these TJ McConnell props at plus money, 10 plus points. I got it at plus 176 the other day. We threw an SGP together for game 2. It didn't necessarily work out. Thank you, New York Knicks. Sorry about that. But Indiana plays a ton of guys. He has a ton of success. 10 plus points, McConnell, Raheem. I am in on that again for the 3rd straight game. Sign me up right now.
I mean, how can you not play it? I mean, at the end of the day, he is playing 15, 20 minutes a game. They're playing a fast pace. If there's one concern is that, I mean, I know the Knicks defense was a little bit better yesterday. But yeah, I think you could blindly take that because he's leading that second unit. I mean, he's going to get the shot attempts. So I do like that one.
The only thing I would be worried about going into this game 4 is if there's any indication that Nesmith's minutes are going to be compromised. He only got 26 minutes in game 3. Does that tighten up some of the pricing on McConnell? Because it might translate. Now, it didn't. You know, the guy who got all the minutes was Ben Shepherd, who got 17 minutes and combined for 2 turnovers and 5 personal fouls in his 17 minutes. Maybe not your most efficient basketball. So I think they're going to be applying whatever remedies are possible for Mr. Nesmith. But that would be the only thing that would affect that McConnell pricing. I'd be worried, you know, if those 15 minutes become 20 minutes, you're not going to get the same. If that's the forecast, you're not going to get the same kind of pricing around his props, I don't think.
And then, you know, Matherin's been terrible.
Awful.
So he's been so bad that now it's like TJ has to do more. I mean, Mathurin only played 8 minutes yesterday. So, I think, you know, TJ is going to continue to hit this one.
Now, House, as someone that is playing the Knicks on the money line, do you think it is worth looking at the Brunson escalators? Because he's due for, now he had a really good game too. But we're talking about a guy who had the worst game probably of his postseason. Doesn't this reek of Jalen Brunson bouncing back in a big way? Like, I feel like 25, 30 points. I feel like you can have a little fun with that. The only thing is the Knicks, when they're at their best, he's not going for, when he goes for 40, it's usually trouble time for them. You know,
I agree. It's some kind of hero situation. He's got to come in and try and save their butts. I honestly like that points in that 25 to 30 range, and maybe there'll be some value on those props, but I'm not really going to go crazy escalator wise. Cause again, I want those minutes to go to the guys that perform so well on the road in Shamet and Wright and Deuce McBride. I want them to catch some. Maybe those are the guys to look for in terms of some prop opportunity.
Raheem, this is a question for House, and I guess for you to some degree. This series price, It got as high as Knicks 4-1 after the first two games. I know House has Indiana tickets. I have a Knicks ticket from after game one that is not good. I didn't get more on. I should have. Because if I took him in game two and it was like plus 130, I really should have grabbed the 4-1. I didn't. I dropped the ball. I admit I dropped the ball. But for House, with him sitting at Pacers, what, plus 135, House?
I didn't get that good a price. I got like closer to 130, maybe plus 128, I think.
All right, plus 128. Should he dabble in some Knicks money, or he missed the boat on that?
I don't think he missed the boat. I mean, if he wants to generate, just free money, I mean, you can get the Knicks at plus 184, but I think right now you're kind of holding the nuts right now. The Pacers, they've lost every game 3, but they've come back in game 4 and put the smack down. Now, you also could do Knicks plus 1.5 at minus 104 and, put yourself in a position to where maybe you win both bets. Maybe the Pacers win in 7. So you could do that, but you could also just get free money by taking the Knicks plus 184. I think the play here is just to sit tight and hope the Pacers win game 4. That's how I would approach it.
JJ, I can't sit tight. Of course, that's the proper, but I already fired on plus 184. I said, give me some of that. The most interesting thing to me is like in terms of series correct score, the two prices that are identical is the New York Knicks winning this series 4-3 at plus 290. And the Indiana Pacers winning this series 4-1 at plus 290. Identical price. And that, I think, are the two possible sort of outcomes here, right? Because if the Pacers do indeed handle their business in game 4 the way they have been this postseason, then them going to Madison Square Garden and just closing it out, ripping the heart out of New York one more time, that's reasonable enough. But if this thing keeps going, Knicks at home for a game 7 plus 290. I just want a taste of it because I love a great narrative. Give me a little taste of Knicks 4-3 plus 290, JJ.
I do have that Knicks in 7 bet. Better price from the start of the series. Sign me up for that right now. Knicks got to figure out to win a couple of games at Madison Square Garden, though, because the road is treating them very kindly. Madison Square Garden. Knicks lost twice to Detroit, once to Boston, now twice to Indiana. Better figure that out and better figure it out fast. All right, boys, when we return, we will bring out the Ringer East Coast Bias Grab Bag, an assorted variety for the boys, sending you on a Monday or a Tuesday on your way in good spirits, good vibes. We're all over the place today. You don't know what you're getting. That's coming up next. All right, boys, it's grab bag time. We're going to hit a bunch of these. House, I'll start with you, and then I want Raheem to piggyback off of this one. Next year, I want you guys to see the future in the Eastern Conference. An Eastern Conference that's going to have a whole lot of questions in the NBA. We don't know what Boston is going to look like. The Knicks will be a year older. Do you believe in Indiana? Do you believe in Cleveland? It seems like the powers that be are really shifting. The big boys are shifting to the Western Conference. So, House, the way too early, I think I'm going to invest in this team would be who in the East?
The Cleveland Cavaliers. I really think that they were close. I thought that they were super close, and I think that the Darius Garland injury ended up compromising the entirety of their run. It turned out to be a grotesquely bad matchup for them against this very deep Indiana Pacers team. I think they go back to the lab. I think that they look at themselves in the mirror, consider how close they were, bring in some additional firepower. There is, they encountered more than anything to me a shooting shortage, and find themselves the ability to really take on the Pacers, because the Pacers are the class of the East, respectfully. Even no matter what happens with this Knicks Pacers series, the Pacers to me are the class of the East going into the next season. But I love the Cavs going into it.
You're trusting the Cavs again? I mean,
House, you're a braver man than me.
They are regular season juggernauts, and they're probably just going to run it back. But I can't trust this team at all. I think obviously the Pacers and the Knicks will probably be favorites going into next season in terms of the Eastern Conference, but I think the Orlando Magic has real potential to make a leap. And I'm not saying that just because Cerruti is our producer, but I think they're just one scoring threat away. And if Anthony Black can make the leap, then who knows what this team can do? Because obviously Suggs missed a lot of time this year, so they weren't their full roster. But this team can defend, and you got two guys in Paolo and France who, I think they're going to be tremendous. I mean, Paolo is playing great. France still has to learn how to shoot. But I think this team, they can make the leap. So I'm looking at the Orlando Magic.
Guys, I'm throwing one in there. And I don't know if I'm necessarily betting them to win the Eastern Conference next year, but I think they're going to be really good. How about the Detroit Pistons? They took the Knicks to 6. They got a top player in Cade Cunningham. They should, in theory, have some financial flexibility to go and add to that team. And we're going to see how that shakes out over the course of the summer. And you got a guy like Duran there as well. Detroit gave the Knicks a really, really tough time in that first round. And they were right there. I mean, they lost basically in the final seconds of a game 6, and they were that close to getting into a game number 7. So I'm going to keep the Detroit Pistons circle maybe as a team that can make another leap in 2025, 2026. All right, Joe House, this one is for you and you specifically. How does it feel that you bet a team to miss the playoffs that has the best run differential in baseball on Memorial Day weekend? How does that sound, buddy boy?
I got to give them all the credit in the world. I mean, the thing that the Yankees, it's not for the run differential aspect, it's the pitching. I mean, that's been the bit as we anticipated how the season was going to go out. The injury, decimation that occurred on the outset of the season to the Yankees, and they've rallied around. And it's the arms. They're getting the 6th and 7th inning with these guys, with starters that were not forecasted to be in your lineup, JJ. Congratulations to the Yankees. I'll take the L.
Listen, Max Fried, and let's just hope that left arm can stay healthy, able, productive. He and Mr. Skubal are going to have one hell of a battle for the AL Cy Young. Now, Skubal is as good as it gets in baseball. He's the best pitcher in the sport. Max Fried has been – Raheem, this is going to sound crazy. If you're telling me right now who would be more valuable, Max Fried or Juan Soto 2 months into the year, where would the Yankees be without Max Fried? They would have no – they've scored runs. They've had issues. No problems there. Max Fried every 5th day pitching like this guy. Worth his weight in gold, my man.
Yeah, I mean, and Juan Soto hasn't been great this year. I don't know what it is. He's only batting .236, 8 home runs, 24 RBIs. He hasn't been worth the money that the Mets have paid, and now I expect him to turn it on. But Max Fried has been absolutely incredible for the Yankees, and it just feels like they've been able to replace his production in the lineup. I mean, you got guys like Bellinger, you got guys like Goldie. I mean, so they're not really missing him.
No, Goldie and Belly have been tremendous. The young guys have stepped up, and that's how, Joe House, at least Memorial Day weekend, you have the best run differential in the sport, which I absolutely positively love. Raheem, this one's for you. Acuna comes back this weekend. Homer's in his first at bat. Atlanta, we know what a dreadful start they got off to. But I want to look at the playoff odds here for the Atlanta Braves. They are minus 138 to make the playoffs. Are you surprised that line is as high as it is?
I mean, it's been like that the entire year. I mean, obviously there are 8.5 back from the Phillies and the Mets. I just think that's a little bit high when you consider how well the Philadelphia Phillies are playing. I mean, the Phillies, just been absolutely dominant. I think they won 9 of 10.
Red hot.
Yeah, I mean, the Mets, like I said, Soto hasn't even turned it on yet. And, they still have this lead over the Braves. So it's just like the Braves aren't going to win the National League East unless you have 2 teams collapse. And then if you look at the NL West, they still got to deal with teams like, the Dodgers are probably going to win the division, but you still got the Giants and the Padres. So where do the wild card places, where's the position come from? I don't know. Ron Acuna is just absolutely incredible. This guy tears an ACL every single year. Every other year he tears an ACL and snaps back like Beyonce after multiple pregnancies. I've never seen anything like it. And he's doing a Ja Morant celebration, grenade celebration after hitting home runs. So he's good for the game. And I don't know if the Braves are going to make the postseason.
All right, House, the final one is going to you, and it's your wheelhouse, and it's near and dear to your heart. The Memorial coming up this weekend. Star-studded field, too. Scheffler, Schauffele, Morikawa, Thomas, all playing. Ludwig involved. He's at 20-1. Hovland at 35-1. The non-Scheffler guy we are eyeing, because you have to throw that disclaimer in there when we're talking about the best player in the world, and the odds indicate as such. Who is the guy we should be keeping our eye on at the Memorial coming up later on this week?
I think Colin Morikawa is due, and he was so disappointed in his performance at Quail Hollow at the PGA Championship. He came out with a fire, and he's been very close this season. The advanced analytics in his game, that support where he is. Now, he was out of form at Quail Hollow, and he's got a new coach, new guy on his bag, but all of those things should be in his favor. He's available on the FanDuel Sportsbook at 16-1. I honestly hope that he comes out and doesn't have a great front nine at the Memorial, because I'm going to live bet him. I want him to be like, everybody's like, this doesn't look good. I'd love to get him around 25-1. I do think that he's got that dog. This Memorial, it's Jack Nicklaus's tournament. The golf course, Muirfield Village, it's a super challenge. He always has the rough up. It favors guys that can keep the ball in the middle of the fairway. Morikawa with his ball striking is my guy at 16-1.
We'll be keeping that in mind. Boys, when we come back, we'll wrap up East Coast Bias with a bang. Best bets, sending you on your way. Coming up next. Best bet time. House, floor is yours. Take it away.
JJ, I made the case. I love the New York Knicks on the money line, plus 116. Going to parlay that with Oklahoma City in a closeout game. Oklahoma City at home, minus 360, parlayed with the Knicks, plus 116, plus 176 on the FanDuel Sportsbook. That's my best bet.
Dream.
For my best bet, I'm going with the Minnesota Timberwolves, Oklahoma City Thunder, over 220. If I have anything on Knicks Pacers, I will make a post on X.
I am rolling with a two-team parlay, Raheem. I know you're rolling with your over for Minnesota and Oklahoma City. I'm looking at a bounce-back spot for the Knicks point guard. Jalen Brunson was very inefficient in Game 3. I think he will be much better in Game 4. Let's take him 25-plus points. We parlay that with the Knicks to go and beat the Indiana Pacers. Juicy, juicy, juicy. And I think in Game 5, a couple of three-pointers made by Mr. Alex Caruso. I'm going to take the OKC Thunder. And Alex Caruso, 3 made threes. I expect him to be heavily involved back in game number 5. That's going to do it for us. For Joe House, Raheem Palmer, Jackson Stremski signing off. We'll be back after Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals. And I hope the Eastern Conference Finals will evened up at 2. Boys are out. Be good, everybody.